Good evening to everybody.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. I'm happy to welcome today's speaker, Mr. Rajshekhar. Rajshekhar is the MD of Infant Engineering Private Limited and the National President, National Institute of Quality and Reliability. Now he is going to share about his industry, how we after the COVID-19, how the industry will be there, and then all those things. Now I request Gokul to introduce our today's speaker, S. Rajshekhar sir. Gokul, take over now.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. I think today we have a eminent speaker, Mr. Rajshekhar. He is the manager of Infant Private Limited. So he holds a bachelor's public administration in postgraduate. Also, he has done his doctoral research from TQM, that is especially on FMEA. So he's also managing director of Unicorn Bangalore, which is in Pondicherry, private limited that is in Pondicherry. Also managing director of ACE Software Solutions and the managing director of ACE Friends Park. So he's currently like a national president of National Institution for Quality and Reliability and the president for SEMA, that is SIPCOT, Ilka Motor Manufacturer Association, which houses more than 140 corporates, including Hyundai, Wipro, and other multinational and Indian companies located in Sriperumbudur. And he's a president for CAA MSME in Tamil Nadu and the technical steering committee yet for Minister of Heavy Industry and Kirloskar Institute to promote industry at 4.0 in MSME sector. So he been applauded with so many awards as well as with recognition. And he also like have a social initiative of training zero defect Z professional under the Make in India initiative to promote a zero defect culture among SMEs in India and delivered more than 2,000 participants in various cities to synthesize various stakeholders of Tier 1, Tier 2 companies on Industry 4.0. He's also participated as panelist in various industries of CAA, ASCM, and others. And as a president of SEMA takes a role in synthesizing industry situated in Kanchipuram district, the need for conservation of water bodies in the district. So we have a versatile personality who was an entrepreneur as well as hold so many records and also have a social initiative. So we thank our Rajshekhar sir for his presence of giving this wonderful session in the evening of Saturday. So I request our Rajshekhar can take up.
First of all, good evening to all. Thank you for that wonderful and a long introduction of mine. And I don't know how much I have done really on that front. So first of all, I thank Institute of Engineers Tamil Nadu chapter for giving this opportunity to talk to the members and people from industry and CEOs. The topic, I would say, all of us have gone through this COVID episode now, and every one of us has to survive. So I thought the topic should be post-COVID-19 era, survive, succeed, and sustain in an industry perspective. Because my earlier lecture was on an economic perspective, which was directed to a different kind of audience. Today, I thought when Mr. Ramdas and Mr. Gokul told me that the participants are going to be from the organizations and industry and some of the professionals who work for various organizations. So I coined the topic in such a way that it is useful to the participants and also throws some insight into what lies ahead of us. I hope Ramdas sir, I'm audible. You are able to hear me clearly? Okay.
Yes, sir, audible.
Okay. So post-COVID-19 era, because I named the topic era, because basically an era starts or a period in history. Era is a period in history which starts with the event, a large event which has a worldly impact. I would say it may be like the birth of Jesus Christ or the World War II or the Cold War era, because all these had a lot of implication on the total global community. So similarly, post the COVID or the virus impact on the world is going to be like a kind of a history, period of history, which has a beginning with the virus coming into our lives. and it exists. After the virus goes out of our life, we are going to start a new period in history, which is going to be totally different. And everyone alive today, you can say up to the age of 10, will remember this era for their entire lifetime. So whenever they come across something like this, immediately they will think about this period and they will definitely recall this particular event and start counting happenings from this event. So from an industry perspective, we wish to survive first and then succeed and sustain in the new era. So I'll go to the next slide. So what normally we talk whenever something hard happens, we always believe we have to be together, and whatever we achieve, we can only do it together. In Tamil, there is a popular saying, "Ondru pattal undu vaazhu." Go together, and together we can. So let us go to the next slide, where what is the post-COVID scenario? I have divided into 3 areas within an organization. There is a group of investors who are called stakeholders. For an organization, there may be many stakeholders like customers, suppliers, bankers, other creditors. There may be many, even the governments and the society. But I am talking here about basically the promoters. We are calling them as stakeholders. And the second part is the organization itself. And the third part is the people. So from the stakeholder point of view or the promoter's point of view, what lies ahead immediately after the post-COVID situation is over? First thing what is going to hurt is for their investments, they are going to get low returns or nil returns. This is the fact. Second, the most important part, many of the promoters would have had a great passion like me. See, I run 5 different companies, from 2 manufacturing units, a software company, a robotic company, and a hospitality business. What happens is many of us may lose control of our business if we don't set right things now, and immediately if we don't find solutions. The loss of control, like people, you would have seen yesterday, some of the biggest airlines are going into bankruptcy. What it means is somebody is going to run the organization and the original promoters are going to lose stake. So this is one of the biggest realities, glaring realities in front of most of the entrepreneurs. 2, for the organization, many of us, whoever has done their MBAs, the organization has got no link with the promoter or the people. It is a going concern. It lives beyond the life of an entrepreneur or the promoter. So from the organization perspective, what is going to come? Immediate thing is there is going to be lack of demand, mounting debts. You would have seen most of the government announcements are based on the supply side, trying to provide working capital, trying to provide certain incentives, trying to bring in some new industries or sectors into private sector. So those things are all related to supply side. There is other side called demand. The demand is the amount of money which is going to be available in the ultimate buyer or in the hands of the people. India has got a huge middle class, which is double the turnover of United States. If these people are not equipped with the money in their hands at low cost, low interest rates or nil interest rates, the demand is not going to pick up. So this is going to be one of the biggest challenges what organizations are going to face. Second, all of them have fixed costs. For instance, my companies, we had a pay bill of close to 40 lakhs per month, 40 to 50 lakhs put together. So what happens, the fixed cost like the salaries and what the amount of money we spent on the sanitization itself was huge, and masks and things like that. So these fixed costs are going to be spent whether we have business or not. So in that condition, your debts are going to increase. Lack of demand plus fixed cost going to add up to the debts. Third is about people. If somebody is an employee or a professional, from their point of view, there are going to be salary dues because there is a lot of litigation going in the courts that the promoters are arguing for no salaries to employees and the trade unions are going against the employers. asking for the full salary. So there are going to be salary cuts, salary dues, and in many sectors, there can be unemployment and uncertainty. So these are the post-COVID-19 scenario from the organization perspective with all these three main stakeholders in the organization. So what is way forward? Immediately, if you would have seen in many aspects, in a family, if a earning member is lost, the family goes into a spin. They are always left with debts. They don't have a direction, and many things happen in the family, and they go into a doom. If luckily the family has a person who is able to take over and reset and restart, those families prosper. The same thing applies to the organizations also. So the first thing what we have to do, we are like newborns. We are born again in a post-COVID-19 era. So we have to reset and start afresh. Most important point is start afresh. And I don't know, erase COVID-19 from our memories. I don't know how many of you felt the same way I felt. No other virus or bacterium in our past, the history, we have never given a shape to that virus. There were many deadly diseases which prevailed before COVID, like AIDS, the hepatitis B, the dengue, the malaria. They were all bigger killers. In fact, tuberculosis, if you see, it is one of the biggest killers in the world. Almost 700 persons die in a day due to tuberculosis, which is a much, much bigger number when compared to COVID. But the media has given a, kind of an image to this COVID-19 virus, giving it as a bigger light than a image which is much bigger than our lives. So this is not going to go out of mind. Can anybody remember how the AIDS virus looks? Do you know how a malarial parasite looks? But we don't remember all of them. We just remember them as just a disease, and it comes through a parasite. But unnecessarily, this big image was given to this COVID-19. So I think, first of all, once this is over, I had my father, he had a pancreatic cancer. My father used to have a great personality like Shivaji Ganesan. So the pancreatic cancer really ruined him. And from 75 kilos, he became 35 kilos in 3 months. And it took a long time for me to erase that 35 kilo image of my father from my memory. It was really haunting. Even, the dreams, whenever I have a dream about him, it used to be that second image, which I never had in my life. It was only for 3 months, but it had a lasting image. I lost my father 25 years ago. But still, the second image, supersedes the first image, which was a great image like Shivaji Ganesan. So this COVID-19, whatever the image, we have to remove from all our Facebook pages, all your WhatsApp pages once it is over, and more importantly from our memories. That structure, the drawings, everything has to be removed. As long as it remains in our memory, it's going to haunt us. So that's the first thing we have to do. Then let us see how we go forward. So I would say any ecosystem which is better than the previous ecosystem makes your life better. For instance, how many of you remember 1991? I don't know. Prior to 1991, nobody knew in India what is the GDP growth. Nobody knew. We never knew as Indians that there existed a GDP growth. First time in 1991-92, we were at that time around 2.5% to 3% GDP growth was announced. That was the period in 92 when Manmohan Singh came into picture, and suddenly India went into a liberalization mode. Prior to that, India was a more poor country with more poorer people, and we always thought the human resource as a problem. We were thinking that human resource is population is the issue. After 1991, it became a resource. And from that point onwards, we started thinking about the growth, the GDP growth year after year. So the ecosystem, we remember as from 1991, we remember it as a growing country, a country which has rapidly moved on the ladder of GDP, gross GDP in terms of the world. Currently, we are ranked 5th. If the things go well, we should easily reach the third spot or second spot. So how do we remember, erase these bad things from our memory is to have a better ecosystem than the previous era. So there I have listed some of the objectives for the new era. There may be many more. So one of them are improved demand. So somewhere we have to create an improved demand. Every one of us is responsible. I'll tell you how we have to do this. Then expanding customer base, new products, improved cash flow, improved profitability, secured employment, total employee involvement. It has all the three, like the stakeholders objectives, the organizational objectives, and the employee side objectives. See, how do we generate an improved demand? Generally, in a post-independence era, after 1947, we were more of an agricultural country. Whenever a farmer gets a, what he call as a bumper crop, he normally takes the money and puts it inside his box and locks it. Whatever is produced gets converted into paper. The money never circulated into the system. That was the reason for our poverty. If you say today's condition, everybody is preaching about don't spend, only spend on essentials. They keep on preaching this mantra to everyone's mind. This was post-independence mantra, which pulled India into poverty. Let me tell you one example. We all buy, say, 2 lengths of flour for a puja. Suppose we cut it into 1 length. What happens is we are cutting the 50% of a sales of a person who is a flower vendor. You cut his life by 50. So his productivity, whatever he sells, is going to come down by 50%. Likewise, you are buying 1 slipper every 6 months. Now you push that to 1 slipper every year. You are cutting somebody's business. And at the same time, you are also shrinking the economy. In wherever possible, please keep the spending mentality going. This country only can be saved if you continue to spend. If you improve your saving at this point, the country will go into bloom. Because every one of us in business depend on somebody buying our product. If we stop buying somebody's product, the same mentality is going to prevail on the second person. He stops buying our product. So naturally, the economy starts shrinking. So it is our responsibility that wherever possible, please keep spending. Also have 10% saving, doesn't matter. You have to have some savings, but don't put everything into saving. Particularly, don't keep it in your vaults. If you keep the money in your vaults, it becomes paper. This is the most important message I want to give it to this group. Second, currently expanding customer base. Today we don't know which of the customers may survive, which of the customers may have business in future. Suppose you have few customers now, like 3 or 4. In our example, if you see my manufacturing companies, we have not more than 4 customers in each of the units. But if you take my hospitality business, we have 10,000 customers. So you see the wide difference between these two businesses. Similarly, for robotic business, we have multiple customers. And the software, we have few customers. So one of the important parameters for survival is expanding your customer base. Try to distribute your risk to multiple customers. And the third part, new products. Try to come out with new products because we are all part of a supply chain. Also, I have products in software. I have a robotic product. In this lockdown period, we developed a ventilator, ICU ventilator, because it really gave us that impetus, which is required at this point of time. So we developed that product. We also made some sanitizer stands. These are some of the products which are not part of our core, but still we moved in to make such products. So we added almost 2-3 products in this period. So this gives us some more new markets and some more new customers. Please try to add new products. Improved cash flow. Right now, cash is the king. The customer is not the king, nor we are the king. The real king is cash. If you have cash in your hand, then you can manage your business. Once I had a friend who is from a Gujarati community. I still retain him as my guru for my business when I started my business. He told me one thing: if you have jewelry in your house, please bring the jewelry into your business, sell it, bring the jewelry. Whatever non-value adding asset, please make it into cash and bring it into your business. Only you borrow beyond that point. If you have non-value added assets, please sell it, make it into cash, have cash, which will be of great help to run your business. Improved profitability. This is a very difficult question at this point. Still, you have to think on the volumes are not important. The profits are important. Please, particularly from auto industry, I tell you, there is a big mistake done by most of the MSMEs, including me, that we always look at business, we always look at rotation, we don't look at profitability. We were left with very little cash when sudden impact like COVID came into our life. If you had profitability, you would have had always some cash reserves. So if you don't have profitability, please focus on the profitability. And from the employee side, secured employment happens if you stick to your existing employer. Please don't try to move away from your existing employers. So that will give you some kind of a security. Even there are salary cuts, please continue to stick to your current employer. And from the employer side, please try to bring in the total employee involvement through trainings, through motivational aspects and incentives. Let us do something on that front so that total employee involvement happens in the organization. These should be the basic objectives. People can add much more, but these 7 objectives, if followed in the future, will definitely bring in better growth and sustainability. How do we achieve these objectives? Is there any such solution in the horizon, and what it is? I would say if all the stakeholders in the organization have improved prospects in the near future when compared to the post-COVID-19 era, that is one of the most important things. That is a solution. If we see some light in the future, if we see some light at the end of the tunnel for everyone, shareholders, organization, improved top line and bottom line, employees, improved remuneration and job security. Whatever in an organization, there are only 3 people. There are investors, there are the organization itself, which sustains on the increased sales and increased bottom line. So the organization will naturally move forward. From the employee front, if you have improved remuneration and job security, definitely it's going to happen. So the important point is we have to have a better prospect for all the stakeholders in the future. That should be the important goal for the organization in the short term and mid term. Long term, we cannot plan now. And I always tell, I'm a TQM follower. So normally a TQM Deming cycle happens, plan, do, check and act. So now you have to do the checking first, act, then plan and do. So it goes like this. So you have to check your current status and move on to act and then plan and then do. Normally the plan, do, check and act does not exist now because we don't know what lies in the future. So please follow this and see how we can implement this. So I come to this rule book. Like we all know in the government, there are a lot of rule books and the people just follow the rule book and they try to push the rule book into the system, whether it is relevant or irrelevant. And they talk only about the rules and not the practical approach. We all complain as entrepreneurs, we always complain about the government's rule books and the social rule books, many things. But as promoters and the people in the organization, we also have a lot of rule books, which comes as a biggest impediment for survival and succeeding in this particular time. So first thing is eliminate this rule book. Try to create a rule book which suits for the current environment. And what is the immediate measures on the rule book? I wish to state flat organization structure. One of the important things is try to rewrite the rule book for a flat organization, particularly in the mid-size organizations, which is neither a large corporate or a very small MSME. The organizations with 100 plus institutions, 100 plus employees. These are the institutions with major problem. The larger corporates, they are actually flat. The very small organizations are run by the owners and maybe 1 or 2 people. But the mid-size organizations have all the baggage. Mid-size are, say, something like 30 crore, 35 crore turnover, and with 100 plus people. And these organizations create certain culture within them. They have a very tall structure. Every decision making goes to the top, and from there is no approach. Everything comes from the top. So people don't take decisions. So I am telling you mainly to focus on these particular organizations where you have to create a flat organization structure. Next is decentralized decision making. If you see, whatever I am sharing with you is all my experience. Slowly, people tend to say that it is not my job, it is not my, it is not falling in my particular area. You have to talk to MD, you have to talk to the general manager. Particularly in mid-sized organizations, this has become a kind of a problem, which used to exist in large organizations 20 years back. Now, mid-sized organizations are filled with all these kinds of things, and decision making is delayed. And this is going to really hurt us in the post-COVID-19 era if your decisions are not decentralized. If decisions are to be taken after a long time, it's really going to hurt. The decisions taken at this point, quick decisions will help. If you don't take decisions, if you are waiting for right decisions, things are not going to happen. This is one of my important suggestions to the members here, because we have brought this culture into our organization. Now we may fail, but we will take decision. Similarly, the organization, we have allowed everybody to come out with suggestions, and also the structure is now very open and flat. And the third most important point is about focus, basics, focus on basics. Over a period of time, as the organization grows, people slowly move away from focus on the process, focus on the quality parameters, focus on systems, try to simplify things within the organizations. So these things are lost. So just they keep adding people when the turnover increases. They keep on adding additional processes over the existing processes. So the organization becomes bulkier in nature. And we have to return every entrepreneur, every person who is employed in the organization, and the people connected with the organization have to focus on the basics. So these are the immediate measures to rewrite our rule books. A rule book should focus on these three things: to structure, make the organization simpler and flat. The organization, the decision flows from top to bottom and bottom to top very easily. People are given a lot of delegatory powers so that they act quickly, and then everyone in the organization is trained to focus on the basics. So the key factor is spend more time on training. In my organization, all our organization, we had several trainings during this lockdown period through Zoom. In fact, I spent a lot of money training my people. We spent a lot of time on 5S training, where the entire organization participated. So through Zoom, we had a 5S training. Now we have appointed a consultant to do the 5S implementation, and next year we'll be going for a 5S all India level certification and award winning thing. So you have to invest in training. You have to move on continuous improvement process through this methodology. Please use this time to focus on these things to create a new rule book. So the most important point next is think outside the box, or encourage out of box thinking. Generally, there are some people in the organization, there are seniors. If you see, the entrepreneur is never a person who blocks the ideas. The ideas are blocked by the next level managers or general managers, because they feel somebody comes with a new idea. They are the blockers. They will tell the person who comes with new idea that the management will not accept this, the boss will not like this. So if you are an entrepreneur, keep your ears on the floor and talk to your people, go to the floor, do a lot of Gemba visits, go to the floor, talk to your people. Some new ideas may really pop up. So don't lose that opportunity. Please encourage the out of box thinking in your organization. So this is going to be a key factor for survival and growth in the coming days. So what are the measures to encourage out of box thinking? In our organization, and wherever I am giving a talk or where I get an opportunity to talk to people, I always tell them, encourage idea generators. So you have to find within your organization, there will be few people who get ideas, because God has not given the same kind of thinking abilities to everybody in an organization. It works like a Pareto principle. Only 20% in your organization will be idea generators. It is the job of the top management and the promoters to identify these idea generators. And also, please go to go-getters than regulars. You can easily identify these characters in the organization. The go-getters are the people, when you call somebody and tell them who can do this, only 3 or 4 hands will go up. This is a simple technique I'm telling you. So whoever puts up the hand are the people who go-getters. And after that, you can test their real mettle when they do the job. But the 95% of the people will never raise their hands. They are regulars. They have to be given the job. They have to be encouraged. They have to be motivated. Then they will do the job, or at least they will take up the job. Please identify the go-getters in your organization. This can be done through a simple motivational talk, where you can give some small assignments and ask people who want to do this. This is what I do in my organization. Whenever I want to identify the go-getters, I call for a meeting and give them a small assignment and ask the people who will do it. Immediately there will be 3 or 4 hands going up. The rest will keep quiet. Please identify them. And more than anything, please accept failure as part of the program. Don't feel cribbing about failures. Don't feel sad that our decisions have failed. There is a great likelihood that many of the decisions, maybe 20% or 30% of the decisions we take in the post-COVID-19 era may fail. Please don't bother about it. Please keep taking decisions, and please accept failure as part of our system. Avoid stagnation at any cost. It is always told, to remain in a particular place, we have to keep running. But it has become more important now. If we stagnate for any reason, if we stagnate, we are going to get stuck. We are going to lose the opportunities. We are going to lose our stake in the organization. If you are an employee, you will lose your employment. Please avoid stagnation so that you first survive and then succeed. So these are the important measures I suggest for the out-of-the-box thinking. So please take these as objectives and then see how you can generate out-of-the-box thinking out of all these 4, and you may also add some more. And these are few of the measures I have suggested. Please keep thinking about it, and then naturally you will get some solutions. So what are the outcomes of a solution? If you apply many of these things, what you are likely to achieve? One of the important thing, a stakeholder, if the organization succeeds in implementing out-of-box thinking, and if it has got the objectives set, and if the organization moves towards that, what are the outcomes? The important outcome is the investor will be still interested in the organization. He would like to invest and consolidate in this question. For instance, in my organization, if these things show up, whatever I listed here, I would like to retain my equity in the organization. I will be interested to invest further so that my holdings are strengthened. So the outcomes of the solution is you retain the existing promoter. If you are a promoter, you will also see that your organization stays with you. From the organization point of view, the growth and stability are important thing, and the customer retention and customer support and retention and supplier support. See, if the solutions are implemented, your important thing is you are going to retain your customers. At the same time, you are also going to have a very good supplier base. This will be another outcome which will come out of these implementations. And from the employee side, you will have high moral employees, and the organization will not have any difficulty in the retention of employees and the employee turnaround. Just imagine, if the demand picks up in the employee side, in the employee market picks up, then there is going to be another cycle where you are going to lose your employees, the good ones. So naturally, if the organization is strengthened, they would prefer to stay and their morale will be quite high. So these are the basic outcomes of a surviving and succeeding organization. And it also gives a path to sustainability. So the outcomes are very important. You have to see after the post-COVID-19 era, you have to see whether you have achieved this in 6 months' time. If these solutions are in your sight, then your organization is poised for sustainability. So if these things doesn't show up, then you are in a danger. So we have to always plan now from the second quarter to the fourth quarter. If these things show up and if the investors are showing interest in the organization has achieved growth and stability, if the customer base is retained, customers are happy, if the suppliers are willing to support, and employees on high morale and retention, then you are poised for sustainability. The period I would suggest is between the second quarter, because first quarter is already done and dusted. I don't know what is going to happen to the first quarter. Please keep the first quarter out of this particular financial year. Please focus on the second, third, and fourth quarter. If these signs show up, then definitely your organization is going to survive, succeed, and sustain. So, in the beginning, I told you what is the organization? Because organization is a going concern. It has got no connection between the promoter and itself. So from what the organization expects out of the stakeholders and employees. This is an important point because the organization is an entity by itself. It does not have any connection. For instance, many of you, I don't know how much you are connected to finance. For me, there is an entry in the organization. There is a director's current account. My account says how much I have given to the organization, how much the organization has to pay. Similarly, my equity is shown as a liability. From the organization point of view, it's a liability to be paid back. So this gives a clear picture. The organization is a separate entity when compared to the promoters or any other stakeholder. So from the organization perspective, what is expected? So the organization expects the stakeholders to bring motivation. And the most important thing is additional inflow of funds. In the previous slides also I said, at this juncture, the most important point is cash. If the organization is able to get the cash, it will survive. So who has to give it? The first person to give it is the promoter. So the infusion of funds is one of the important requirements from the organization point of view. From the employee point of view, what it expects? It expects improved productivity and job enrichment. This is one of the important subjects when I did my MBA. It's almost like 1990, so 89, 91. So almost 30 years now, or 30 years now. This topic really enthused me during my study times. The job enrichment is going to be very critical because currently we are operating with 50% of employees. So the purchasing executive has to take up the HR executive job. First of all, he should enrich himself on the knowledge of that job. Otherwise, he is not going to perform. Similarly, HR executive may have to do some other jobs like administrative jobs. So this is going to be critical from the employee side that he has to do more other skill areas, not that he enhances the volume of work he does. He has to take these skill levels of other departments or related areas so that job enrichment happens. These are the important expectations from the organization perspective, from the stakeholders and the employees for survival, sustainability, and growth. So these are things which the organization expects. So if you are a stakeholder, please bring funds. If you are an employee, please bring improved productivity and please also focus on job enrichment. So what are the stakeholders' focus areas in this new era? To infuse additional equity. And these are some of the measures if you are a promoter. Convert short-term debt to long-term. These are some of the things which I am talking from the finance perspective. At any cost, today also we had a meeting with the Indian Bank MD. So what most of the entrepreneurs are trying to do is to move your short-term liabilities to long-term. By doing so, your survival improves. Suppose today you have EMIs to pay and you don't have money in your hands. That's what government has given us, that hope that you can reface the EMIs so that you don't have to pay those loans, because this is going to bring in litigation. Similarly, if you have short-term debts like working capital, you have no other go, you don't see any light of demand, please convert it into a term loan so that you pay it over a period of next 7 years or 10 years, and please do that. Similarly, do any kind of addition of working capital from your bank financing or through NBFCs. Please don't worry about 1 or 2% of interest rates and things like that. Please see that your working capital is flushed. If you don't have working capital, your survival becomes a big question mark at this point of time. If you are not able to pay to your creditors, they are not going to give you raw material. They are not going to give you your toolings. You are not going to get your inputs so that you can do your process and convert into your output. Please focus on additional working capital. And the last point, divest portion of equity of yours to somebody, thereby converting debt into equity. What happens is, this is one of the important measures. It's very difficult to implement. For instance, I have 100% stake in my organization. If I give 25% of my equity to another partner who is totally taking care of the debt, it immediately removes the pain that I have to have some liabilities to pay in the immediate future. But it's a very, very difficult decision. Please take this decision if you have to survive your organization. If there are no other avenues left, if your bankers are not supporting, if the demand is not immediately picking, but you still have hope that you can really bring your organization maybe out of this danger in 1 or 2 years, please divest some of your equity to another partner. Thereby you still retain the organization, still you take care of your employees, and you still hold portion of the equity, and you can still claim to be the owner. This you have to remember. Even people like Bill Gates, the Apple founder, all of them were thrown out of the organization at some point of time by the other investors. But because of their ability and their need to run the organization, they were able to regain the equity. Giving a part of equity does not mean that it's the end of the road. But if you lose the organization entirely, it's a different story. Please divest some portion of equity if the other 3 avenues are not available to you. If some people are there to take your equity, please give it and make the organization survive. This is one of the important focus areas you have to now focus in the immediate future. Just after the COVID, this is going to be the focus area for the stakeholders. From the employee side, I said job enrichment, waste reduction, focus on interpersonal relationship, productivity and upskilling. The job enrichment, I think I have talked about. And I tell you about this waste reduction. Today, every employee thinks this cost reduction, cost cutting, this is not waste reduction. When I was heading supply chain for a large conglomerate, it's an American company, I never went to my suppliers and asked for, how can you cut your cost? I never asked for it. I tell you one simple example. This was a kind of a company which was engaged. It was the world's #1 suspension producer at that time. It was a Fortune 7 company. We were using shock absorber oil in the suspension. In India, the pour point for the shock absorber oil was 37 degrees minus. My suggestion to the management at that time was not cost cutting. I never went to my suppliers and asked for a cost cutting. What I suggested was for a local usage, we should have pour point as minus 27 degrees. For export, we should have minus 37 degrees. How did we do it? We did by adding a dye into the export oil. And for local oil, we kept the same color what it was. It was a transparent oil. By doing so, I was able to reduce the price by 30%. And I went to my suppliers and asked them how much you make out of this. They said 10 rupees will be the reduction I can give you. Because from 37 degrees pour point, now the pour point is reduced to minus 27 degrees. The oil will cost me 30% less. So they gave me 10 rupees. But what we did in a management is, We asked them to only give 7 rupees. Still, he retained additional profit of 3 rupees and we reduced 7 rupees per liter. This is a win-win situation. We reduced waste because in India, we never get minus 37 degrees. So it was waste to have minus 37 degrees as 4 point. This is one of the cost reduction I did in my career. And the saving at that time was around $2 million per annum. At that time, you can imagine 20, 21 years ago, what would have been my salary. It was actually like a peanut compared to the saving I made. So most of the executives, if you are part of an executive team, please don't kill your suppliers. Today, I find this attitude among most of the employees. They are trying to earn their salaries through the blood of somebody else. Please don't do at this point of time. You are likely to carry a big weightage as sin. Please don't do that. Try to really look at waste reduction. As an entrepreneur also, please look at waste reduction instead of cost reduction. By cutting somebody's salary, it's not a cost reduction. That is not called a cost reduction. So try to improve on those areas and only focus on waste reduction. Please don't focus on cost cuttings. Focus on interpersonal relationship because there is going to be a lot of pain in the organization. People are going to be pushed to work in environments which were not known to them. So particularly the interpersonal relationship, I would say, in the family. Your family has to support you to do the job in the outside world. See what we did, we ensured in our family, we never had a single misunderstanding all these days when the lockdown happened. We were smiling to each other. We are trying to help each other in the family. And I also understood how much difficulties my wife was facing, how much difficulties my mother was facing when the housemates disappeared from my house. So it is very important that we understand the pain points of others. Please take the empathy as the important point. Instead of thinking from our point of view, please start thinking from the other man's point of view. Interpersonal relationship is very critical with your suppliers, with your customers, within the family, within the organization. Please focus on that. And then productivity. Please focus on productivity to the highest level. Please remove all mundane and mood off from your day-to-day activities. Stop talking among yourself, wastage of time. Please divide your total time into various segments. Try to focus on productivity by dividing your working hours so that your energy is retained, and try to improve on value-added activities and remove all non-value-added activities from your day-to-day work. And the last point, upskilling. I'll tell you one story. My younger son, he developed ventilator during this period. He developed a fumigator. He developed a, kind of a stand for, the dispenser, what we use these fluids for cleaning our hands. Many things he did. And within that, he also developed skills for Python. He is not a software engineer. He's a mechanical engineer with developing all these products. And he came and told me that, Daddy, I know now I can develop a Python product. I said, son, you are straining yourself too much, but don't do it. This is what I call it as upskilling. Please see that if you are a programmer, try to learn other middlewares. If you are a mechanical engineer, try to do certain kinds of upskilling on other areas, maintenance. And if you are from a production area, please go and learn something in the maintenance. And things like that. Please upskill yourself. That will really help you to survive. Even if your organization does not survive this onslaught, you will survive as a person. So please see that you do job enrichment, focus on waste reduction, focus on interpersonal relationship, improve your productivity and upskilling. So these is the areas I want employees to focus. So organizational focus areas. Produce only what has demand. I'm telling you this because we started moving away from our core area, which was machining, to the other areas like product development. And because these are only demand now. So we went on to produce a ventilator, we went on to produce a stand. We moved to produce what was in demand and what our current existing customers want. Otherwise, we are not producing anything which does not have a demand at this point. Focus on products which earn contribution. This is one of the important suggestions I wish to give to the members. The product has two things: the content, material content, direct material, and then the rest of the area left is called a contribution. Anything which gives you that gap. Suppose your material content is 40%, focus on those areas, you generate more contribution. If your material content is 85%, if you're going to focus on those parts, you are going to produce only 50% contribution, which is not going to be sufficient to meet your other expenses. Focus on customers who pay the bills, and also focus on suppliers who extend credit. It is actually vice versa, inversely proportional. So as a promoter, as a top management or a middle management person, please focus on these two areas, because you have to extend the credit for your organization, also get the bills quickly paid by your customers. This is the area, strategize yourself. If you are able to do both, your survival is guaranteed. Definitely it is guaranteed, you will have time. Automate repeated processes, because many of us were having the liberty and we are having this, the migrant labor available to us. So we were not bothered. So we were not automating. We were dependent on this migrant labor. Today the migrant labor have gone back. We don't know when they are going to come back. Please automate all those processes which are repetitive in nature. Strategize to move your organization to the top of the ladder in the supply chain. You all know the food chain. The top of the food chain is occupied by humans. Whatever happens, we survive. The food chain, as others, have to either depend on us or their survival is left in our hands. Similarly, in the supply chain, if you are an OEM customer, your survival is big. If you are making some products, your survival is going to be really big. If you are part of the supply chain, you are at the bottom of the supply chain, your survival is in a big question mark. So always we say in Tamil, சிங்கத்துக்கு வாளா இருக்கிறத விட எலிக்கு தலையா இருக்கிறது பெட்டர்னு. So please try to move up the supply chain. That's the important strategy we adopted during this period. We started producing products like 6-axis robots. We started producing ventilators. We started moving from a part producer to the product producer. So this is the strategy I want every one of us to adopt. Collaborate with your customers and suppliers. There may be customers who are willing to have collaboration with you at this point through financing, through technical collaborations. Similarly, your bigger suppliers will be willing to fund you as well as to come in collaboration. That is backward integration. They wish to move to do a forward integration with you, and the customers may do a backward integration, so you integrate with them. So this is what I call collaboration. Either you forward integrate, bring collaboration from your customer, or you backward integrate, bring your supplier into fold by investments and things like that. And the last point, most important point, add technology. If you don't add technology to your operations, to your products, and everything what you do, our survival and sustainability and growth are in big question mark. Technology is going to play a very, very key and important role. Please keep these points. So as an organization, these are the focus points I wish to suggest. You can definitely add many more. So let us go to, almost I am coming to the close of my presentation. Need of the hour. The most important, ultimately like a house is made into home. Normally it is made out of bricks. If the people are very collaborative and the family exists, the house becomes a home. Similarly, the need of hour for an organization and all its stakeholders is be positive, stay together, grab opportunities. There may be opportunities in front of us. Please grab it. Avoid conflicts. Please avoid conflicts. Normally, I don't know how many of you believe in this Chandrashtam. We call it as Chandrashtam. And Chandrashtam days, the first thing you have to do is shut up your mouth and not to talk to anybody wrong things. It will bring conflicts. So it's going to be a long period of Chandrashtama for many of us. So what we have to do is shut up our mouth. Any sign of conflict, we have to move away from that conflict zone. Within the family, within the organization, within your employees, maybe a small talk can spark a IR issue. A small talk within the organization, in the house, may spark a debate between the family members, which may lead to conflicts. Yes, your unwanted talk with your suppliers may bring in litigation. A unwanted talk with your customers may bring in you may lose business. So please see that every time you open your mouth, please check whether you have a Chandrashtama there, or if it doesn't have a Chandrashtama also, think that you are having a Chandrashtama day and keep quiet and talk very little, talk good words, and be supportive. So this is one thing. Take risks, because this is the time you have to take risks. There is nothing else you can do, because you are not in a very conducive zone. So you have to take risk. So take risk with some kind of analysis. Don't take risk. Somebody is telling you to do something. Ask somebody, if somebody is giving you an opportunity which you don't have any knowledge, switching over to businesses where you don't have knowledge, please don't do such things. Take risks within your circle. Take risks within your organization, within your skill sets. This will really bring in some good things for us. And last thing, if you're atheist, please believe in God. I'm telling this, believing in God reduces lots of pain. Being an atheist, or you don't believe in God, you don't believe in things, you are taking all the weight on your shoulders. This is the time, whether God exists or doesn't exist, He gives some solace. He gives you something to pray for, something to keep in His shoulder, so you can focus on your day-to-day activities. So these are some of the need of our suggestions from me, and please focus on these areas, and definitely we will have better future to come. So I have come to the end of my talk. So let us walk into the future with grit and hope. All these 30 years, I have done this, and I have always believed that I can walk into future, and always I have done that with grit and hope. That is what made me to create all these organizations. I support almost 500 employees, and directly, and I support another more than 1,500 families indirectly. So that is what I have followed throughout my life. I think COVID has brought me and my son together. We had a discussion yesterday. We both said COVID has given us a lot of opportunities, lot of hope, and many things have become better in the COVID era. So I suggest every one of us also take the same mindset and move into the future. And I think definitely we will win. And together we will definitely win. We will survive, we will succeed, and we will sustain. Thank you very much for a patient listening. I think I have talked for more than an hour to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Rajasekhar, sir. I think it's wonderful presentation. I think you rightly said that we are going to, I think, newborn. After this COVID, I think we are going to be a newborn. And then the one more point is rightly said, the quick decision. It's a very important right now that if you take a quick decision, then you will succeed. And then next one is the waste reduction. Rightly, I think it's a very valuable point. Thank you, sir. Now the Gokul
Yes.
kindly take over. If any questions is there, and then we'll allow to take. Now I
Yeah.
think we have Telangana State Center Chairman Dr. G. Rameshwar Rao with us.
Great. Yes, sir.
Kindly say about few words, sir.
Thank you very much, Ramdas sir. We have really enjoyed the talk. Very nice. I'm very happy to be in the web conference. Thank you very much. This is words I can't say anymore because really I enjoyed the talk today. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. I think it was a wonderful session. I think the need of the hour, like what's going to happen. So there are three verticals what we are seeing today: post-COVID, pre-COVID, and currently we are in COVID. So the industry point of view, you are given lots of tips, and it's kind of a motivation we can say rightly. Like we need such a motivations for all our entrepreneurs, industrialists. So how to engage themselves, like because there was a word said by Jack Ma, that is like the Alibaba founder. He said this 2020 is going to be a survival for fittest only for humans in a healthy condition. If you are fit for healthy, then definitely you can achieve whatever you want. So I hope, I think our members who are there in industry as well as academicians, everybody is going to take a positive note. Definitely they are going to come against this COVID and make our economic highly prosperity one. Definitely the government is also doing a lots of work in order to make it. But I hope we will do the best. And we got lots of question answers, like a few from appreciation. And now I open up for the sessions to our participants who are in the Zoom. So they can open up. Even we got some questions from a few things from YouTube also. There are a good amount of participants there in our YouTube channel. So the session is open for our members. They can ask directly if they have any queries to our speaker.
Sir, good evening, sir. My name is Sanbu Selvam.
Good evening, sir.
Sir, your speech is very interesting, and more. I would say it is more giving us a kind of enthusiastic or enthusiasm to move forward when we are down, sir. More than informative, it is very much useful for us to get gear up ourselves to move forward, sir. Thank you very much for your wonderful and positive speech, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Sir, sir, you close that screen sharing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Also, we got so many applause from our Avinash Kumar Yadav. We said thank you so much, sir, and SK Swami. So very nice and useful presentation to manage COVID-19 situation by industrialists. Thanks to the speakers and organizer, and other members also given their applause. And our KR Deshpande, so he's has asked, I think, okay, some okay, that's something like he needs an internship. So that's not to be discussed here. And we got some questions from YouTube also, sir. That's from Vishwant. So he was asking like, what are the major steps to take during this COVID-19 to prevent it, and state few ecological balances factor during this pandemic situation. Also, how we deal with corona in rural areas which have no proper communication and facilities.
One of the important things, to manage the COVID situation, from the quality point of view, I wish to share something. Right now, we are always talking about a closed group, the people who are asymptomatic or contact tracing. For the government to move forward and to solve this problem, they have to do a random sampling, on the entire population. Random sampling per million. For instance, based on certain AQL levels, like AQL level of 1.5 severity, we have to arrive at a sampling plan. In fact, I am suggesting to government actually through a different letter that we have to do a random sampling. Like per million, suppose we have a sample size of 10,000. And if there is a kind of the positive people in that sample will give us two different directions, whether we have to focus on the asymptomatic people or on the patients. Right now, we are straining our system by focusing on the asymptomatic people. Like we apply in our organizations a sampling plan, a zero defect sampling plan is employed on the population, then we will get the right number of people. I think my opinion, when we see the number of people turning positive who don't have any connection, travel history or anything, the virus has gone to the community spread. Now it is time for us to arrive at the number of people who will be probably positive population. So it will give a right direction. We have blocked our economy and we are thinking these are the only people positive. I don't know, even if we are tested, we may be positive. So this is something which government has to immediately look into. From the sampling side of control groups, they have to move to the random sampling on the general population, which will really throw some light in the future control of this COVID.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we have one more question, like how this tourism and hotel management, as we have seen your profile, that you also have some kind of resort. So how this is going to be there in the post-COVID?
See, this hospitality industry is the biggest sufferer. But there are two possibilities. Currently we have started talking to our customers. We have close to 10,000 customers in our resort. So what we did is we are conducting a survey among our customers. The positive side of it is most of them want to come to our resort. Once it is open, they want to come in. Okay, so they are actually in a big boredom, not travel condition. So it opens up a huge opportunity. Maybe we will have a huge rush if things are open totally. The second thing is the negative side is people may have fear on using the bedspreads, the rooms, the disinfectancy levels in the rooms. These are, two opposite sides of the same coin. So we are expecting a very positive move. That's why we started a survey with our customers, and we are getting a very positive feedback. But for the hospitality industry to survive, we should have the travel ban completely lifted. Without lifting the travel ban, people will be scared to travel to different places. My worry, if I am traveling through a train or a flight, if they stop me from suddenly coming back, I'll be stuck in a location where I cannot come back. So the survival of the hospitality industry depends on lifting of travel ban totally, and there should be an assurance, even if there is a lockdown reinforced, the people will be allowed to come back. This was one of the biggest trouble. Many of us, will agree. We will be scared to travel now. We will be scared to take a flight if we don't have a staying facility in another city. And tourism is going to be totally on somebody's place you will be staying. So the travel ban is the key. If they totally lift it, the hospitality industry will come back.
Okay, sir. Thank you. One more questions from YouTube viewer. So they asked, like, as you said, the opportunity. I think global. I think many companies from China wanted to enter into India. So how far we, as an industrialist and entrepreneur, can look into that?
See, the coming of companies in India, because I was also the president of the Hyundai Association and the current president of CIMSME, and we have around close to 1,000 MSMEs in NIQR also. See, the issue is the companies will come in. I don't know how many of you have seen in our airport, there are already 66, 500 Fortune companies are in Chennai alone. And I don't know how many of you see that holding. It is really, 66 out of 500 is a huge number already. So there may be many more to come, but we have to ease this ease of doing business. See, today getting an approval, even though we have a single window system, we have many of these things. But if you see the ground reality, the ease of doing business, one of the, I don't want to name him, one of the bureaucrat told me, the ease of doing business will exist if there is only one customer, one collector, and one single person in the society. Then immediately you will get all your approvals. But that is not the case. We have to, even though there is a single window system, we have to go to many people, and this is not happening. If that happens, if we really implement the single window system and somebody is able to start the business within a month, you will now forget about China. There are many more entrepreneurs across the world will come into our country. And there will be a lot more Indian entrepreneurs will be starting business. So the most important factor is what we show in paper has to happen in reality. If our government does that, naturally there will be a lot of boost in the coming years immediately.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. I think, is there any our members in Zoom, they wanted to have any queries, they can ask. Balamurgan, you have anything?
Sir, I have one question. Hi,
Yeah.
sir. I am Vignesh from Kalasanagam University, studying third year mechanical engineering. Sir, what will be your advice to the students who are passing out this year
Yes.
to sustain in a job or to appear for a job?
I don't know which engineering branch you said.
Mechanical, sir. Mechanical. I am studying third year only. For my seniors, I am asking.
The biggest problem I face with the engineers today, when they come into my organization, I told that basics, focus on basics, because you are studying a professional degree. Okay. I don't know what you spent on these 3 years. It is not a degree where you write your answers and then forget what you studied. Okay. So first thing is you focus on your studies. Please remember that, please, many of the engineering students are like art students selling their books. It is like a doctor, please retain your study material. Please go through again and again. You are going to be a professional. The pathetic part, I asked this question to in a particular forum, right? In a huge engineering conclave. I asked them, what is it is actually they are the conclave where they are going to come out with solutions for the next 2 days. There were engineering students from some 30 colleges. I asked them, what is the Carnot cycle and what is the efficiency of Carnot cycle? Okay. And there was so much of sound in the group. They never answered me. This is the state of affairs. Please, and again I asked them why there are no drawings made in the second angle and fourth angle. Why only we use first angle and third angle? No answer. And the dean of the college told me, sir, it is a real embarrassment. Our students didn't answer to these simple questions. I said, it is not an embarrassment to your college. If it is only a lecture given to your college, and if your students alone have failed to answer, it is a real embarrassment. But unfortunately, this question is to 30 colleges. And all the 30 college students never answered these two questions. So focus on your basics. Please focus on your study material and see that it is going to be your future. If you just imagine a doctor, you go to a doctor and sit in front of the doctor and you ask for, I am having a headache, I am having a stomach ache. Suddenly you takes a book and starts reading instead of treating you. How you will feel? Only thing is the doctor is dealing with a live person. The engineer is dealing with a dead machine. So only difference is that. Please remember your studies. Please remember whatever you have studied in your college. Please put to practice. The proud part of all of us is whatever we studied in college, we are still practicing till today. And in any engineering forum, among our Sir Ramdas sir, this is what I am sharing to you. Whenever I go to the Institute of Engineers, it is the people who don't get opportunity to study in the engineering college in our times. So the AMI engineers are bigger engineers than the people who got opportunity to study in their colleges. Those days, there were only few engineering streets. 30 years back, there was only around 150 seats in Chennai city. And there were no private colleges. What I face in my forum is sad to share here. When I meet any of my other CEO or MD, what they discuss first is which batch you studied, which college you studied, who was your predecessor, who was your successor, all the story. I keep silently listening to them. And some of the forums where I have my very close friends, I ask them, do you remember anything out of your thermodynamics? You remember anything about your mechanics? Or you still remember anything on your engineering drawings or design? They say, sir, you are the only person who are practicing all that. We all only run businesses. We don't remember anything from that. So one of my friend, I told him, why don't you still having that certificates and still talking about who is your predecessor, which college you studied, who is your successor, all that, please remove that. And for running a business, you need this. Without knowing anything from engineering, why you are practicing engineering side or why you are running an engineering industry. Same thing applies to the student who asked the question also. Please forget about all these legacies. Please focus on basics. This is what I want to tell the entire crowd here.
Yes, sir, definitely.
Thanks, sir. Thanks for sharing, sir.
Yes.
We will let know from now.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there any more questions are there from our participants?
Sir, thank you so much for a wonderful session, sir. So with a smiling face for the entire session, you have given a lot of hope to the people who have been in trouble, sir, actually. So, and moreover, your HR value is very high that it was not a session which posted all the technical information, but of HR values actually. So everyone who has posted has given only positive signs because of your positive aspects, sir. So one more thing, sir. So like the people who are working now are manually doing all such works. The lockdown has brought a lot of innovation and IoT to the ground level. So would that be a trouble for manufacturing sector, or it is a boon to the manufacturing sector where the production rate would be very higher?
See, I would not say manufacturing sector will die because, when many people told me that I put my sons into software, I said there are only 3 core engineering sectors, like your civil and your mechanical side and your electrical and electronics engineering. All other engineerings are supportive engineering subjects, and manufacturing cannot die. You know, today, after the government proposals you would have seen, there is a lot of impetus is given in the coal mining. They have opened up a lot of sectors, and manufacturing is going to be one of the bigger players. The coal sector the opening up of coal sector will bring in a lot of opportunities in manufacturing. A lot of infrastructure they are going to fund. Again, that is going to have a cascading effect on your manufacturing side. If you are in the manufacturing side, in my presentation, I clearly said, please upskill yourself, because tomorrow it's going to be digital world, because you focus on industry 4, you cannot be on the same level. Please upskill yourself. There will be definitely big scope in the future. That's what I see in my organizations.
Rightly said, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. I think there were so many queries. I think you have answered it. I think one few thing I should say that I think my introduction to our Rajshekhar sir is only through by phone. I think I have just seen our NAQR website, and through that I think he's such a very simplicity person, and I was not known that sir is so many the industrialist owner, and he also came to ISRO for delivering a lecture, and also with associate with our IEI. I think 100 years student symposium, he was the chief guest. So definitely, I think IEI should have lots of association with you, sir. Definitely, we will work with that. And more than I think 2022, Tamil Nadu is going to celebrate its 100 years. So definitely, I think your association as well as your support is also required for us to celebrate this 100 year. So thank you so much for your presence in this Saturday evening. So I just hand over to our chairman. So for a few words.
Thank you, Gokul.
Thank you, Gokul. Balamurugan,
Sir, yes, sir. Tell me, sir.
just give the vote of thanks and then you close.
Yes, sir. So, as I said, the session was a wonderful session with HR value, sir. It was a wonderful session. Means all the participants were happy because of your face value, sir. So, with a smiling face, you have delivered for more than 45 minutes, and it was a most interesting session, sir. Thank you so much for a wonderful session, which has brought a new hope to the people as well as the business, sir. So, thank you so much, sir. And also, I need to thank Engineer Gokul, so who has introduced SAR to Institution of Engineers as well as for the industry as well. So today, a lot of industrialists and students who are watching, they were got benefited out of it. And thank you so much, Gokul, for a wonderful session arranging it. And I need to thank Institution of Engineers members as well as the engineers, fellow engineers who have followed it and who have joined, make the session most wonderful thing. So thank you so much for everyone. Thank you. We will be joining with another wonderful session, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.